at 12:29 a.m.
Hi, my name is Britney Spears. I called you earlier, but I'm calling again because I just wanted to make sure during the process of ending the conservatorship that my father certainly several times he'll take my children away.
Hi there. I cannot disclose who I am. An attorney that worked with Britney's conservatorship. I'm no longer with them. And what is happening is disturbing, to say the least.
This woman has been through so much.
I'm a Sagittarius. I'm very keen on freedom. I love freedom. I love independence.
She's a human being, and her rights have been unjustly taken from her.
It is absolutely unprecedented.
There should be no I shouldn't be going in a conservatorship if I work and provide. Married and have a baby. I was told right now.
We're not only going to free Britney, but we are going to reform these laws. We are going to fix this broken system. There's no oversight into conservatorships. We need to keep an eye on them, because in something that really kind of blew me away that Britney said was she's done her research, and she knows there are thousands of conservatorship victims out there. Like, she is smart, and I think that the attention on her case will hopefully open people's eyes to the fact that this could happen to you or me or our family members. If you have some money and someone wants it, they can pretty much conserve you. It's way too easy to do.
Hi friends, how are you today? I hope you guys are all having an amazing day so far. If you guys are not having an amazing day, I hope your day gets better from here on out. My name is Shanda and welcome to my channel. I want to first say thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. If you watch this video all the way through, thank you so much. If you don't make it, thank you for clicking on this video anyway. I really hope that you enjoy it, and if you don't enjoy it, I really hope that you will at least give it a chance. And if you guys are returning to my channel, thank you guys so much for returning to my channel. I really appreciate it. It really does mean a lot to me. So I haven't made a video in almost a week, you guys. I've been so busy, and I've missed you guys so much. So today we are going to do our free Britney video in our series, and this is going to be part 2, and it is called Secrets of the Conservatorship. I kind of went through, I've done so much research finding out all of the steps that they took to get her into the conservatorship, how everything went in those few days, and then everything that I could find throughout the conservatorship that they have done to her. So why don't you guys sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. I held that in for so long. Okay guys, so starting off, I want to start off with the day of January 3rd, 2008. Now on this day, Britney was actually questioned by Kevin's lawyer, Mark Kaplan. And after she was questioned by them, she went back to her gated home where her 2 sons, Sean and Jaden, were at. And they were there with their court-appointed monitor. So of course her visitations were monitored. So they were there with their monitor, and this monitor has came out and said that Britney was a wonderful mother. She was so good with her boys, and she didn't even know why she had to be there. Like, she's recently came out and said that Britney was just amazing with her boys, and she had no idea why she even had to be there. Britney was great. You could tell she loved her boys so much. She put them first, and it wasn't like when they visited her, she put them in front of the TV or anything like that. It was definitely like Britney was always doing hands-on things with them and like appreciated every single second with the boys. But anyway, they were there with their court-appointed monitor, and it was becoming time for the children to leave. Now, Kevin's bodyguards, or his security or whatever, are the ones who did the transportation for the boys. So his security showed up to pick the boys up. Now, I have heard and I have read articles about how the boys were just so great with their mom, and Britney was such a good mother, and when they had to leave, it would be just nothing but tears and crying, and they would be holding on to her neck, and those security guys were trying to pull the boys off of her neck, and she was crying, they were crying. You think about it, it's just so, it's so sad, you guys, it's so sad. But anyways, so the security realized that Britney's assistant Carla was making up a bunch of excuses for her and not turning the boys over right away. Well, after that, they eventually got Sean in the car, and then Britney, this is when Britney, quote, locked herself in the bathroom with Jaden. And of course, we found out that the bathroom door didn't even have a lock on it, whatever. But she locked herself in the bathroom with Jaden. Now, the security guards ended up calling the police. The police could not enter Britney's residence without the proper paperwork, so they had to wait for Mark Kaplan, the lawyer, to get there with the proper paperwork. And when he got there, they had literally, there was so many cop cars. It was around 9:20 p.m. when the cops arrived, and at this time, Britney had locked herself in the bathroom with Jaden for 2 hours and 20 minutes. The police, after they got the proper paperwork and entered the home, there was literally 12 police cars, 2 ambulances, helicopters, everything. News crews everywhere, paparazzi swarming, about like over 100 of them. It was complete chaos. And the police literally busted open her bathroom door, and it was said that Britney was literally just pacing. Jaden was asleep in her arms. She was just pacing the bathroom floor, singing to him and just petting his head, you know, and just enjoying him. And she was singing to him, and he was sleeping, and he wasn't in harm's way, like everybody was saying. But they literally busted open that door, ripped Jaden away from her. I'm sure they woke him up, ripped him away, and literally just strapped her down to a gurney and took her on a 5150 psych hold. So Britney was taken to the hospital. They put her on that mental health hold, and 45 minutes later, her dad, Jamie, arrived at the hospital. Now, I want to know how her dad arrived 45 minutes later. He was already in California? Like, how did he know? Why was he already in California? That's what I want to figure out. So recently, a letter was leaked by a photographer, and it was written by Britney, and it was in the third person. Now, this letter was saying that no one knows the truth. Her behavior with her kids when they were taking her away and her locking herself in her bathroom was understandable. But she also states that her friend was at the bathroom door and kept telling her that the police were leaving, just stay in the bathroom, everything's fine. And she said that she was set up. And after, of course, I've always believed her, but if anybody didn't believe her after finding out what's been going on recently in her testimony, do you believe her now? I bet you do. In that letter, she said that after her kids were taken away from her, she did spiral out of control, but any mother would. Let's go ahead and read that letter. After reading Kevin's article in People, I was amazed at how a lot of the focus was on Britney, their mother, to sell a story for People magazine. Most, maybe, of the focus being on Kevin. What happened to Britney was a year ago, and people need to get with the times. And as for Kevin saying Britney divorced him, she was forced to by her lawyers because she went to visit him in New York and he wouldn't see her and the children. And her lawyer said if she doesn't divorce him, he's going to do it himself. So Kevin's trying to play the innocent victim, and that's hardly relevant. Hang on. So Kevin trying to play the innocent victim is hardly irrelevant. He left her and the babies. Her going on the men partying 2 years ago has nothing to do with the situation now. She is a completely different person, and most of their fighting was done back then because of his problem waking and baking to marijuana at 5 in the morning. No one talks about these things because no one knows the truth. Her behavior when her children got taken away because of her locking herself in the bathroom is understandable, considering her friend at the door kept telling her the cops are leaving, don't worry, stay in the bathroom. She was lied to and set up. Her children were taken away and she did spin out of control, which any mother would in these circumstances. Her next visit took a toll as well. She wasn't listening to her manager. He lost control, so he wanted to scare her. Now this year, Britney has been silenced to speak about anything that's really going on. The people controlling her life have made $3 million this year. She would love for new eyes to see her situation, but if she brings it up, she's constantly threatened that the conservators will take her kids away. Can you guys believe this? It is so awful, so awful. Okay guys, last page, and this says how long does this go on? As long as the people are getting paid and she has no rights, it could go on for a while. But it doesn't make it right at all. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Everyone is very quick to put a gloomy eye on Britney. Does anyone talk about Janet Jackson gives her baby to her brother? Hopefully she won't do it with this child. Britney has given her brother a $2 million apartment, her mother a $4 million estate in Louisiana, and her father the best job in show business. She is a very giving person and would love to get some respect that she deserves. Yes, she deserves a lot of respect. She seems like such a wonderful and nice person, and I cannot even believe that this is still going on. Okay, so that is the letter that Britney had written in the third person, and it was leaked by a photographer just recently. Okay, so a few days after the incident where they strapped her to a gurney and took her out, took her to the hospital, a few days after that incident, Lou Taylor got involved. Now, she, of course, was involved before this. She went down to Louisiana and was talking to her dad and her mom for a while and blah, blah, blah. But she got involved publicly, and she talked her dad, Jamie, Britney's dad, into having Dr. Phil go see Britney and convince her to stay in treatment. So Dr. Phil did go and talk to Britney, but then he violated the family's trust by releasing a statement to the media. Then Lou Taylor then released her own statement to the media about Dr. Phil violating their trust, and then she called herself, I guess she was self-proclaimed, she called herself the spokesperson for the Spears family.
Does the family believe that he has damaged their relationship with their daughter in any way?
I think it's been compromised because it's a measure of trust. I mean, here you have Britney that needs to have some security somewhere that every single thing she does and every single person she has a relationship with doesn't become an opportunity to be exploited. I mean, when do you ever rest in that if you're constantly in fear of being exploited?
Interesting.
And, you know, I just felt for Jamie and Lynne, this was a time where, you know, they were taken advantage of, that they are people who love their daughter. and that know exactly what's going on and want that support. What they don't know about Jamie and Lynne Spears is that every day Jamie goes to work as a professional chef, asking the Lord to give him the strength to honor the people he works for in the midst of circumstances. That Lynne Spears is a mother that is brokenhearted just because she's apart from her daughter, that she loves her daughter so much, and again, asking every day for God to give her strength and for her to continue to have hope. I mean, I'm so disturbed, Meredith, where we've gotten to be as a people, the morbidity of us watching the depravity of people suffering than to rally around and be hopeful. So really, I guess for me to be self-indulgent for a moment, that I would really hope that all those who seek God for strength in their life would be interceding for this family, because Jamie Spears, Lynne Spears, Brian, and Jamie Lynn Spears are all amazing people.
So Britney was released from the hospital a week later, and Kevin was granted full custody of the children as well. When Britney was released from the hospital, her family was like super mad about it. They did not want her released at all, but the doctors explained to them like, hey, Britney is okay. She's fine. She's not a danger to herself or others. We cannot keep her here. And, I mean, I guess they had to just live with it, but they were mad that she was released. And it's probably because they were trying to do a bunch of shady shit behind her back. So this entire time, Jamie and Lou Taylor were in secret cahoots with each other to file for a temporary conservatorship over Britney and over her estate. They were supposed to file for this conservatorship on January 22nd, but according to Lynn's tell-all book, Jamie and Lou said that they felt God telling them to wait. They said they felt like Sam Lutfi was too enmeshed in Britney's life. Also in her book, Lynn said that they were planning this conservatorship for 6 weeks. Now think about that for a minute. 6 weeks? That's a month and a half. They were planning this conservatorship. No one in her family would warn her. Her mother didn't warn her. Nobody tried to help her. No one did anything. And I love how they were planning all of this 6 weeks before it happened. So before the thing with the baby and everything, locking herself in the bathroom and all that, they were planning this. But a week later, Britney's father and her team orchestrated this involuntary hold with the LAPD. Now they staged like an intervention for Britney, and they were explaining to her why Sam Lutfi was a bad influence. Now I have heard of interventions of many kinds. I've heard drug addictions, alcohol addictions, eating disorders, like mental disorders. I've never heard of an intervention being orchestrated to tell a grown woman that you think that you don't like her friend and you think he is a bad influence on her. Now I understand the circumstances, and if Sam really was like drugging her and like cutting off all contact with everybody and trying to like basically do what they were trying to do, if he really was doing that, I could understand, and she's Britney Spears, you know, you need to protect her. But that's not what they were doing. I mean, they couldn't allow Sam to do what they were trying to do. I mean, they're trying to take over her life and take all her money and control her. They can't let Sam do it first. That is what, if anything, they were trying to do. But I honestly don't know. I don't think that's what Sam was doing. But I've never actually heard of, like, if you've watched the show Intervention or whatever, I've never actually seen or heard anybody saying, if you don't take my advice right now, we're going to lock you up on a 5150 right now. I mean, it's ridiculous. It seems like they didn't care about her well-being if Sam was trying to take over her life. They wanted to take over her life, and that's why they had to get Sam out of the way. Because they say that Sam was doing all these horrible things, but I personally think that Sam was helping her and like helping her stand up to her family, and they couldn't have that, so they had to get him out of the way. A few days after her family orchestrated that little intervention thing about Sam, Britney and Sam both called into TMZ together, and they were telling TMZ that Britney's family barged into their home, and they were saying that Sam was bad, and this is when Britney said, yes, me and Sam argue sometimes, but Britney then said that her family was just jealous, and they were also mad that they did not fit into her life anymore. which that makes me think, you know, that her family has always wanted her money. And when they saw that Britney started distancing herself from them and she was trying to cut them off, and Britney even served Lynne with those papers on the set of Zoe 101.
No, we don't want to burn ourselves, actually. How you doing? Why is it that Britney served you?
A love letter.
A love letter? What did the love letter say?
If you call this a serving, you know?
Yeah? Why are the rumors then? Why are they saying that she's going to serve you and there's problems between you guys?
Always rumors.
There's always rumors, huh?
And it's always rumors of rumors.
Well, let's clear them up. I mean...
She did not serve me.
She did not serve you?
She did not.
Okay. Good to know. X17 online.
And that is when, like, Britney started, like, distancing herself from the family and cutting them out of her life. And that is, interestingly, when the conservatorship happened. So it seems to me that Britney, her family has always just wanted her money, and they've always wanted to piggyback off of her fame and get what they could get out of it. That's what I think. And when they saw that Britney was hip to their bullshit and was starting to, like, distance herself from them, that's when they were like, no, we're not letting this happen. We need to take control of her and her life. They're probably, I don't know. I would think, Jamie, we spent all that money making her a star and getting her those dance classes and blah, 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 and she's gonna cut us out. Not happening. We deserve payback. I just see, he didn't say that, but that's what I see him saying, honestly. Now, later that same day, when Britney and Sam called into TMZ, Britney's family were waiting to execute an involuntary hold on her. They had the LAPD involved, the LAFD involved, and they were waiting to execute this involuntary hold on Britney. And really, for what reason? If you think about it, like, why? Why this involuntary hold right now? Like, nothing really even happened. They gave her this intervention about how Sam was bad, and she didn't immediately cut him out of her life 100%, so they're going to lock her up. Like, really? So, that same night, the LAPD were there, but they were waiting on the paparazzi to leave. So that night, the LAPD barged into Britney's home again, and they had an ambulance with them, and they put her on an involuntary psych hold, a 5150 hold, again. And Britney went willingly this time, and supposedly some paparazzi heard Sam arguing with Britney's parents about who would be taking over her care if Britney was declared to be unfit to care for herself. So, this is... her family is, like, constantly orchestrating these involuntary holds and stuff on her for no reason. The first one, they did that intervention trying to say Sam was bad, and then they busted in and put her on a psych hold because she didn't listen to what they had to say. I mean, she's an adult. Like, if my parent told me they didn't like my boyfriend and I was like, well, too bad, I'm an adult, and then they busted in my house the next night, in the middle of the night with the cops, and put me on an involuntary 5150 hold, do you even see how ridiculous that sounds? I mean, I understand, whatever, she's Britney Spears, and he could be taking advantage of her, but you're gonna lock her up because somebody might be taking advantage of her? Like, it's so wrong, all the way around. So on February 1st, Jamie petitioned the court to do a temporary probate conservatorship over Britney and over her estate. He also filed a restraining order against Sam Lutfi, saying that Sam drugged Britney, he cut her phone lines, and supposedly Sam was telling people that he was going to take over Britney's life. Oddly, the same thing that Jamie did. But the courts, of course, granted the restraining order and also granted the temporary conservatorship over Britney. Jamie and his attorney, Andrew Wallet, were deemed the conservators over Britney's estate, and Jamie was the sole conservator over Britney's person. The first hearing was set on February 4th, just 3 days later, and on this day, Jamie took more steps to strip Britney, his own daughter, of her basic human rights. By law, a conservatee is supposed to be notified at least 5 days in advance that someone is seeking a conservatorship over them. Now, this is extremely important in the California law because it gives the conservatee time to get legal representation before someone just completely takes over their life. So an ex parte meeting was held, and it was to waive the notification for Britney. So Jamie was trying to get Judge Reva Goetz to waive the notification for Britney, and of course she granted it. Now, Jamie's reasoning was that Britney could be let go from the hospital and Sam could be notified about the conservatorship, and that would be posing a threat to Britney, because how? How would that pose a threat to Britney? You mean it'll pose a threat to your plans, because if Sam finds out, he'll tell Britney and Britney will go get a freaking lawyer and fight this. You couldn't have that. So he took steps to strip his own daughter of her basic human rights of being notified that someone was trying to seek a conservatorship over her life and all of her finances. I mean, yeah, you should probably get a notification of that. Great call, Judge Reva Goetz. Jamie being granted the conservator over Britney gave him the power to take over her medical care, make her medical decisions for her, change the locks on her house, say who she could and could not see or even talk to, and much, much more. And taking away her right to be notified of the conservatorship was Jamie's first step to block Britney from being able to do anything or to fight back in any way. So Britney had a custody attorney named Ron Rail, and Ron Rail threw a huge monkey wrench in their plan. On February 2nd, 2 days before the hearing on the conservatorship, so they filed for it on February 1st, and Britney had this attorney named Ron Rail, and he was immediately notified because he's Britney's custody attorney, and if Britney was in a conservatorship, it would affect her custody over her children. So Ron Rail went to see Britney on February 2nd, the very next day, 2 days before the hearing was to take place on February 4th. So he showed up and to visit Britney in the hospital, and he told her about the conservatorship, and he also recommended Adam Streisand, who is a top attorney handling celebrity estates. So he recommended Adam Streisand for Britney. So Ron Rail showing up definitely put some holes in their plan, because right after he left, he received a call from Jamie's lawyers. Now, Ron told Adam about this, and Adam immediately sent Jamie's attorneys an email calling them out on their shady plan to try and take over Britney's life. And in the email, it said this: I am told you called Britney's former custody attorney, Ron Rail, and told him that Britney had been judged incompetent. That is false, and you know it. You further stated that Mr. Rail has no right to see his client without approval from the temporary conservators. That is also false. He then accused them of planning nothing more than a hostile takeover of our client for improper purposes. Now remember, guys, when Jamie's lawyer received this letter or this email from Adam Streisand, Britney had not yet had the capacity hearing that is required by the courts. So she was not judged incompetent. She hadn't even had the capacity hearing yet. So, what did they do? Well, Jamie's lawyer immediately wrote an email to Dr. Long, who was a psychiatrist, I think, that saw Britney over a year before this entire thing. And they asked him to do the capacity declaration for them. A day later, the doctor responded and said, quote, after talking to my lawyers, I was advised not to speak to you any further. End quote. Hello? Seems like that doctor knew that they were doing something shady as shit and wrong, and that he didn't want to get mixed up in that. Well, good for that doctor. But I mean, it would have helped if he would have stood up and said something, but whatever. So, someone please tell me how they knew before the capacity hearing, before a doctor had even evaluated Britney, that she was going to be deemed incompetent and that a temporary conservatorship would be implicated. Somebody please tell me. I would love to ask Judge Reva Goetz that one. So on February 3rd, one day before the hearing, Samuel Ingham, who is Britney's court-appointed lawyer, showed up at the hospital to talk to Britney. He didn't give Britney any notice. She didn't know he was coming at all. And he had a very, very short interview with Britney. I think it was only 15 minutes maybe. But it severely impacted her ability to fight back. On February 4th, now this is the day of the hearing, Britney is still locked up in the hospital, which was their plan, but Adam Streisand is there to represent her. Now, he tells the court that Britney does not want her estranged father in control of her estate, and Andrew Wallet is also called into question with his motives and his expertise as well. Then, Jamie's attorney asked if Britney had even the mental capacity to obtain her own attorney, which clearly she does have the mental capacity to obtain her own attorney because she obtained her own attorney already. So she obviously mentally can do it because she did it.
She's got a point.
So Samuel Ingham then spoke, and he said that during his very long 15-minute interview that he had with Britney, that she did not maintain the mental capacity to hire her own attorney because she did not understand the proceedings. And then he added on that she was like a comatose patient who couldn't even sign a piece of paper, end quote. A comatose patient that can't even sign a piece of paper, yet she is competent enough to go and hire Adam Streisand and sign all those papers to hire him. So Adam Streisand continued to argue back and forth with Samuel Ingham, and he was saying that Britney did obtain the mental capacity to hire an attorney because she obviously did hire him. But of course the judge, Miss Reva Goetz, made another brilliant decision and decided to side with Samuel Ingham and said that Britney could not hire her own attorney. Let's take away all those rights, right, Judge Reva Goetz? So she sided with him, and Britney was also forced to use Samuel Ingham as her attorney. Now, Samuel Ingham was paid $405,000 in the year of 2008 alone from Britney's estate. The average court-appointed attorney in California in the year 2010, now this is 2 years later, was $60,000 to $74,000. So, yeah. He definitely gained a lot more by imprisoning this human being. The Honorable Judge Reva Goetz yet again made another ruling stripping Britney of another one of her basic human rights that every conservatee is supposed to have, and that is to be able to have an attorney. But oddly, Jamie and his lawyers seemed to know that this was going to be the ruling beforehand. Remember when they told Britney's custody attorney, Ron Rale, that she was going to be deemed incompetent? That's a little weird, isn't it? I mean, how did they know she was going to be deemed incompetent even before the hearing? It's a little
suspicious.
Exactly. It seems like poor Britney had no chance with all this corruption going on. She had no chance. 2 days later, on February 6th, Britney was released from the hospital. Now, again, her parents were very disappointed that she was released. But again, the psychiatrist said that they could not hold Britney any longer, and she was stable and she was fine. Obviously, she wasn't comatose then, right? As soon as she left the hospital, she went straight to see Adam Streisand. Britney wanted to challenge the conservatorship, but Adam couldn't help because he said that she was deemed incompetent. Jamie then used her kids as emotional leverage and toyed with Britney by saying, "Do you want me to help you get your babies back?" End quote. That's so sickening. It makes me sick. Britney said that she began to understand the best way to see her boys was just to accept what was happening to her. And that is so sad. Can you imagine somebody doing that and taking over your life, and then you're like, you go to court, well, you get an attorney to go to court for you, and then they tell you you can't even have an attorney? Like, you can't even have your basic human rights? And then they start toying with you and saying, well, do you want to see your babies? Do you want me to help you get your babies back? Well, you got to do this then. And then you finally accept that the only way you're going to be able to see your babies, your heartbeat, your pride and joy would be to just accept what was happening to you. That is so disgusting. Ugh. Britney was then able to get on a conference call with an attorney named John Eardley. There are transcripts of this call. Now, Britney said, quote, basically, I want my life back. I want to drive my car. I want to live in my house alone. I want to pick my own security, see who I want to see, and make it happen, end quote. So John Eardley immediately got to work. He filed a motion that would transfer the case from the LA courts to the federal level. And he did this by saying that Britney's civil rights were violated. She had not been able to have a single hearing in court, not one. She was stripped of being notified and of even being able to obtain counsel at all. She's been completely isolated with absolutely no privacy at all. She can't drive a car. She can't have a phone. She can't make or receive phone calls. She can't send or receive mail, regular mail. Every right that a conservatee under the California law was supposed to have was taken away from Britney. He also explained that Jamie was denying Britney the right to even participate in her own custody case. Jamie and Andrew Wallet, of course, responded by saying, quote, this is a brazen but vain attempt to strip a probate court of jurisdiction from an attorney without a client, end quote. That just seems so shitty, and it sounds so snobby, like just so shitty. Like, this is a brazen attempt by an attorney without a client, because they know that Britney's not allowed to have her own lawyer, so this is an attempt with some attorney just without a client. Like, what? Come on. John Eardley responded to the press by saying he is concerned with the emotional and physical safety of Britney under the circumstances. They asked when he last spoke to Britney, and he said that he talked to her a few days ago, but someone heard her talking and, quote, wrestled the phone away from her, and he hadn't talked to her since, end quote. That is insane, you guys. That's insane. So she's not allowed to have a phone or make or receive calls, so she had to sneak and try and call him, and then somebody heard her and wrestled the phone away from her and hung up on him, and he hadn't heard from her since. That would make anybody concerned. Even if I was just talking to a friend about something normal and somebody wrestled the phone away from her and hung up and I hadn't talked to her since in days, I would be concerned as well. So let's talk about Christina Lutfi. Now, Christina Lutfi is Sam Lutfi's sister, and she actually had to sneak Britney a phone once so that Britney could try to contact a lawyer or someone to help her. Christina Lutfi got Britney a phone, and she met her at a hotel and slipped her the phone, and Britney ran off and hid the phone.
She was calling that she was, sick of this conservatorship, and her dad was controlling, and she wants out, and she just really wants Sam to find her a new lawyer, that she can't even have her own cell phone without them overhearing or controlling everything. I relayed the message to my brother to see if he could help her out. he said he'll see what he could do. Excuse me. And we talked one more time, and she asked if I could get her a phone. She told me she'd be at the Peninsula Hotel around 9 o'clock. When I gave her the phone, she was really like happy and relieved, but also just pretty scared, you know, that the fact that I have to slip her a phone, you know, and her mom can't see her, you know, she was scared. So she had to go hide it so no one would see.
There are voicemails that Sam Lutfi recently leaked from Britney begging for help, pretty much. I mean, we've all heard the one voicemail where she was asking for help, saying her father threatened her several times to take her kids away. But there's now 2 more voicemails that I've never heard of. I just recently heard yesterday when Sam Lutfi leaked these voicemails. So let's take a listen.
Britney Spears want John Eardley to represent me to put my conservatorship without a drug and I'm of sound mind and body, and I feel I've been held against my will. That my civil rights have been violated, and I would love to exercise the constitutional rights. And this message.
That is so sad. And here's the next one.
53 a.m.
Hi, this is Britney Spears. It's 70 the 18th. I was just saying I want out of this conservatorship. I've been brought up by visitation of my babies by this conservatorship. I'm confined, restrained, and stripped of my civil rights, and I demand the state of California to review this case because I feel it's illegal.
I mean, I just cannot even wrap my head around this. This is so awful. And excuse me, but does she sound like a comatose patient to you guys? Does she sound insane? Does she sound mentally competent? She definitely sounds fine to me. But Jamie's attorneys and even her own parents, I believe that is what Sam said, they went to court and vouched and said that that was not Britney. That was not Britney's voice, and Britney was never even asked by the courts at all if that was her. So her parents went in and lied and said that that wasn't Britney, that wasn't her voice, these were fake. And the lawyers all lied and said it was fake, and the wonderful judge never even asked Britney herself if that was her or not. They just all buried it. How wonderful is that? So Blair Burke, she is an attorney for Jamie, and she also testified and lied under oath and said that Britney told her that she did not even know who John Eardley was, and she did not want him as her attorney. Pretty nice, huh? When Britney is not allowed to go to the hearings herself and speak for herself, these people just lie. And, I mean, why didn't the judge ask Britney? So, because of Blair Burke lying and saying, well, Britney told me that she doesn't even know this guy, because of that, the judge denied the motion, saying that the case should stay at the state level because Britney was deemed unable to hire her own attorney anyway. Isn't that a reason to move it to the federal level? Because she was denied the right to have an attorney, just like he said her civil rights were violated? After that, Samuel Ingham spent 90 minutes in Judge Reva Goet's chambers, stating that it would be harmful to Britney's health for her to attend any of her own court hearings. And then, of course, the wonderful Judge Reva Goetz agreed and again stopped Britney from attending her own court hearings or even being able to see what was being filed in court. Can you guys imagine that? Not only were your civil rights violated and stripped from you, you have no rights at all, you can't do anything for yourself, you can't drive, you can't have a phone, you can't receive mail, you can't do anything, you can't fight back, and now they're saying that you can't even come to your own court hearings and you can't even read what is being filed in court about you in your case. So even though Britney was denied again, she finally did regain some visitations with her boys, which is a good thing. But of course, a psychiatrist and her father had to be present during every one of these visits. Now this would give Jamie even more pull over her to make her do whatever he wanted her to do. And he would say things like, if you want to see your babies, you have to do this and this. And do you want me to let you see your babies? Like, he, so disgusting. But he immediately put Britney back to work double time with no time to even recuperate after her entire life was stolen from her and all of her rights were violated. Like, I love how she is just so fragile. She can't even attend her own court hearings, but yet she can go back to work double time and make all this money for everybody around her. That is just wonderful. So, the conservatorship team had her guest star on How I Met Your Mother and put her immediately back in the recording studio to record Circus, and even hired back Larry Rudolph, which she had fired twice before, you guys, and made it perfectly clear that she did not trust him and he did not want him around her at all. How nice is that? So soon after that, Britney's mother learned that she was starting to be pushed out of Britney's life, and she allegedly wrote this email to Jamie about it, about her feelings. Now this email says, Jamie, I never thought that you would ever make it possible for a court to keep my child's health information from me, her mother. You know you put your foot down about many things, and you know you could this one too. But once again, it's not important enough to you because it's me. You as a conservator can give her mother her medical records for me to review, because I am the mother who was there when our children were sick and in the hospital. Where were you? The man you once were would have no problem in telling those high-paid professionals that her mother has every right to know her child's health, court or no court. And I am not the one making money selling stories to magazines, and I never will be if that is the threat that they fear. And I know you don't understand those medical terms. You can't even pronounce them correctly that are in the health documents. So get Dr. Saja or someone to interpret them for you. Clearly, you need to stay at the house with Britney while she stabilizes on the new drug. Don't run out on your daughter again when the going gets tough, especially now. You sure are paid enough to put forth the extra effort. Please question your conscience about the real reason you allowed me to get pushed out. What would Jesus do? So, okay. That was the email. So clearly Lynne realized that she was starting to get pushed out of her daughter's life. I mean, what did she think was going to happen? Whatever. So Britney had no rights. She was deemed incompetent, but yet she could act, record music, and go on tour. Her team immediately threw her into like this comeback frenzy type thing where she started recording her new album, Circus. So when she did her Blackout album, she did not do a world tour. So the Circus tour was going to be like super huge. She was going to be promoting 2 major albums in this one tour in just a few months after her entire life was stolen from her. At this time, Larry Rudolph was reportedly shopping around for a reality TV series to come and do like a documentary film of Britney to like film her comeback. And I don't understand why they keep calling it her comeback. She never even went anywhere, but I don't know, maybe they mean her comeback from her breakdown. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, now Jamie did not want this reality TV show documentary thing at all. He was completely against the idea because, I mean, he didn't want anybody looking into everything behind the scenes with Britney, and he didn't want anybody to see what went on like behind closed doors. He really needed that, like, a whole bubble of like secrecy. He didn't want anyone around Britney without his permissions. He didn't want Britney to ever speak out of turn about him or the conservatorship, and he didn't want her to say anything bad, and he didn't want people to also see her being normal and competent as well, which is ridiculous because she can dance and remember those dance moves and teach them and sing and record and work her ass off, but she can't. He doesn't want her to be seen being competent and thinking rationally on film or whatever. He needed no one to know what was going on because of all that shady ass shit that was being done to her. But the documentary was going to happen anyways, whether Jamie liked it or not. Now, in this documentary, Britney finally spoke about her conservatorship. Britney is in complete control. She's very rational. She's smart. I mean, she's amazing. She's fun-loving. She's sweet. She's got such a big heart, and you can tell how clearly competent she is in this documentary. Take a look.
If I wasn't under the restraints that I'm under right now, you know, with all the lawyers and doctors and people analyzing me every day and all that kind of stuff, like if that wasn't there, I'd feel so liberated and feel like myself. I'm kind of stuck in this place, and it's like, how do you deal, you know? And you just cope, and that's what I do. I just cope with it.
I sit there and I look back and I'm like, I'm a smart person. Like, what the hell was I thinking? Sometimes it can get kind of lonely. You're guarded, you know? You have to be that way. Otherwise, you get taken advantage of and get in situations like I did the past year. And when you tell people that, and when I tell them the way I feel, it's like they hear me, but they really not listening. They're hearing what they want to hear. They're not really listening to what I'm telling them. It's like, it's bad. I'm sad. Just like you can't really go there in a complete state of happiness because you're scared that it's going to be taken away, you know? So it's better just not to feel anything at all and to have hope than to feel the other way. I had like certain people into my life that were just bad people, and I was very guarded at first, but then I went to a point where I ended up letting them in because I was lonely or whatever the fact, and I really paid the consequences for that. Big time. But I just feel like, you know, you do something wrong and you learn from it, you move on, but it's like I'm having to pay for it for a really long time. I never wanted to become one of those prisoner people. I always wanted to feel free and get in my car and go and not let people make me feel like I had to stay in my home.
That is so sad, you guys. And she's right, you know? Like, even when you go to jail, you know when you're gonna get out. Like, this is just, it's unbelievable to me that this has been able to go on this long.